Welcome to Footprints in the Market. Today we have a guest that I've known for quite a while. I've worked with Niamh in a few different capacities, so I just wanted to say a big thank you for coming on, Niamh.
Oh, you're very welcome and really glad to be here.
Thank you. So I thought just to kind of start us off, if you could give our listeners just a little bit of a background as to your journey in the iGaming industry and your role now.
Yeah, sure. So I joined the industry back in 2016. So my background before that, I was living in Australia. Obviously, I'm Irish. I was living in Australia for about 3 years, working in conference production across different industries. Then I moved to the UK in 2013, was still doing conferences across multiple industries, but I thought it would be nice just to focus on one industry, and that's where my introduction to the industry came in the form of EGR Global. So I joined there as head of event content, so looking after everything from awards, breakfast briefings, webinars, all the content-led events, everything like that, you name it, and launching new events as well as scaling existing ones. And then I moved into role of group head of content 2020, and was focused more still on the event side, but also on editorial as well. And then when I left EGR, I had a brief stint at a company called US Ability Digital. So they do product advisory, data migration, that kind of thing. And then I joined Mindway, where I'm now as marketing manager in April 2023. So that's brought me up to speed where I am now.
Fully rounded career.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I hope so.
In terms of like the events and the conferences that you were running like pre iGaming, how are they different from kind of what you're doing now? Are the iGaming conferences are crazier or more eventful than what you were running previously?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I did some really interesting ones. So I did some ones in Australia about native title and Aboriginal employment rights. So ones that obviously were just for that region. And then I worked on some fintech events, oil and gas, mining, kind of everything. But I'd have to say in the gaming industry, there is a brilliant community. That's definitely one of the things that has stood out not only from my time running events, but also, working in different areas of marketing as well. And it's great to see, new faces join, but also catch up with friends because I think there's, the industry is relationship kind of built. It's the entertainment industry. So there's a lot of extroverted people. And yeah, it's a really fun industry to work in. I mean, it wasn't so fun during lockdown running events. I have to say that it's definitely a stressful time, but still learned a lot from it as well at the same time.
I do remember it was actually for an EGR event, and I think I was on a panel during COVID, and it was obviously the virtual one, and my wee girl ran in and just decided
Yeah.
that this was definitely the appropriate time to feed herself Haribo when I couldn't give her into trouble.
Yeah.
It did come with its challenges.
Yeah. It was a strange time because, I mean, we obviously everyone didn't know how long it was going to last, and I had actually just moved into the role of group head of content. I think it was like a few weeks before lockdown, so I was all of a sudden managing a team. So trying to kind of manage that in terms of apprehensions from the team and where we'd go as a business as well. There was a lot of things that we had to do, and we worked quite closely with other events companies, with competitors, to try and map out how we'd make it work so that we weren't stepping on each other's toes as well.
Yeah.
And then you kind of had to get to grips with the new event tech, which was a whole kind of thing in itself. Like we recorded, you probably remember virtual awards,
Yeah.
with the green screens and everything like that. And some elements have stayed since then, and worked out really well. And we tried out so many things. Like we had, I think we had a virtual race at one point. We had kind of treasure hunts around the websites to keep people engaged as well. And I remember, like at the very start, we tried to replicate exactly what an in-person event would be like and have an hour for networking, but no one wanted to come into a Teams meeting for an hour and just
Yeah.
sit there and talk. So we quickly had to kind of rethink those kind of things. But yeah, I think we came out really well. I think the other side as a whole.
To be fair, that actually answers one of my later questions, which was like, what is a big challenge that you've had to kind of overcome in the marketing side of things? And I think that's a
Yeah.
perfect example of that.
Yeah, that would be, I think, one of the biggest ones because there's so much uncertainty and we'd never done anything like that before. And then because the restrictions were changing all the time as well, around in-person events. So, I mean, I just don't think that you can substitute for in-person events. Like I said, the industry is very relationship based and driven. And I think that although people complain, there's a lot of events, and I know the calendar does get pretty clogged up, and there doesn't seem to be a week without an iGaming event on. There is definitely a justification for meeting people in person, and I think definitely there's a space for virtual, but it kind of has to work in tandem with it. So yeah, there was a lot of things we tried and tested, but yeah, we got through it eventually.
In terms of Mindway AI, just for people who might not have a full understanding of what Mindway AI does, it'd be good. Obviously, you're B2B focused within the iGaming sector to kind of maybe just give us an outline of what problem effectively Mindway AI solves within the iGaming industry.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I've joined the industry in 2016, and now since being with Mindway, it's nice to be in or with a company that I can just focus on one area of the market because the industry, there's just so much going on. It's so dynamic and it changes so quickly. So basically, what Mindway does is player protection, 100% focused on player protection. We're a Danish company. So we were founded as a spin out of Aarhus University, which is in Denmark. So it was founded on over 10 years of research of neuroscience, neuroimaging, and problem gambling research. So our founder, Professor Kim Morrison, is a professor of neuroscience. Interestingly, he actually has founded another company, which is similar to Mindway, basically use AI to map out patterns in the brain to detect disease in stroke and cancer and different things like that. So essentially what Mindway does is the same thing but for problem gambling, that we can our algorithms are trained by experts. Along with the 10 years of research, in which we were founded on, we have an expert panel of psychologists and psychotherapists and experts in the field who look at the data, and then the algorithm is trained on that so it can detect normal but also problematic behavior, so that operators can really make more informed decision of to how to interact and intervene early with those players to avoid problems escalating. So that's our primary solution, that's Game Scanner. And we also have another solution called Gamealize, which is a reinvention of the self-test. It's more engaging than kind of traditional self-tests. It's a 80 card game. And it basically is based on the principles of neuroimaging, and it gives people a chance to kind of, I suppose, explore and learn from their gambling behavior and style, and it gives them feedback on, on their playing and what they can do with that. So it can be used as an intervention tool, but also as an awareness tool. So that's kind of the company in a nutshell. We're in 62 jurisdictions now, so we're not just a small Danish company anymore. We're growing quite rapidly, actually. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
I think the thing is like that's obviously it's not only solves a problem for the gambling industry in terms of operator and affiliate side to make sure the players are protected, but I'm guessing like a product like that is also just great for the industry as a whole because then it kind of can get rid of the negative connotations that are sometimes attached to it.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I was at an event last week in Dublin and we were just talking about this, that, the industry as a whole just comes under fire so much. And I think, the general public aren't really aware of what goes on in the background in terms of industry fines, restrictions for advertising, that the fact that there is gambling regulators. I think a lot of people just wouldn't really know that. So for a prime example of this, when I told my friends that I was moving role and starting a Mindway, they were like, "Oh, you're on the good side now," and I'm like, "It's quite, it's all one." So a lot of people aren't aware of the black market, for example. So there's, I think, a lot to be done around education, not just for operators' own player base, but for the wider public as well.
No, 100%, absolutely, I completely agree. And I think that kind of leads me on to my next question in terms of how you guys market yourself in an industry that, well, I always say it's a really large industry, but also really small at the same time because there is that relationship building aspect and everybody kind of knows one another in some sort of third generation link or whatever.
Yeah.
In terms of the content that you guys put out for, like operators and to kind of get them on board and using these products, what kind of content do you find resonates the most with them? Is it like that educational type pieces, or is it webinars or panels?
I'd say it's definitely a mix. With my events background, definitely would say case studies are always successful. People want to hear what's going on and, the real kind of practical results as well, so that people can derive value from that as well. But I think, and this was something that we always tried to get when I was working as a conference producer, was actually the pain points. So from both sides as well. So maybe what we find challenging as a supplier, but also obviously what our clients find challenging, and doing the research and having the well-rounded research as well. I think from we work with operators of all kinds across different verticals and across the globe as well. So you're going to have different nuances in what their challenges are, depending on that. So I think that's important to keep that in mind as well. Another thing I think is, obviously a buzzword is data driven, I think, but how you can actually apply the data that you have, that you're getting from your campaigns as well, and how you can use that in a more kind of interesting way. We just talked about education, but I think, even within the industry, there's a lot of education to be done as well. So sometimes you just presume that people just know what your company is about, but obviously when you're entering new markets, or even in existing markets, you have to kind of make it very clear. And also with operators, the bar is changing all the time in terms of regulation. So how can we support them with that as well? So I think content around that is very helpful. I think interactive content is quite good. So we try to do that at some of the events where we do demos or kind of, showcases, or the case studies, like I mentioned, that are quite useful, I think, just to do it with the client rather than us pitching about why we're so great.
We're talking about like emerging markets and that kind of thing. How do you guys balance sort of getting customer acquisition from those new markets and kind of building the brand? How do you balance that? And do you
Yeah.
change your messaging or content in any way when you're targeting different geographic locations?
Yeah, it's a good question. I suppose in general we look at the short term and long term approach. So taking that dual approach to marketing. So obviously you have your lead gen. You mentioned about white papers and SEO, and I think even since lockdown, LinkedIn has become huge. I read that there's now over 1 billion users on LinkedIn, something like 67 million companies on there as well. So, no matter how small the following a company might be on LinkedIn, I think there's a lot of value there. There's definitely been an increase. I think we've seen it everywhere across the board in video marketing, but especially I'm seeing it more in B2B marketing as well. So we definitely take advantage of that. I think email marketing is still important as well. I mean, it's the OG, but it's still an effective way. There was something I was reading recently, and it was about the HubSpot State of the Market report, and they said that the ROI from email marketing has an average of 36. It was in dollars, $36 for every dollar spent. But I think with that as well, I think personalization, like you're saying, for different markets is important as well. One of the other things that we do at Mindway, which is quite important as part of our content and marketing strategy, is about partnerships, um, to kind of get us into those other regions or build those relationships in those other regions as well, or with different cohorts. So, for example, we some of our partners include AWS, with Epic Global Solutions, FinPlay, and Berendo. So they all bring something different and a new kind of, I suppose, awareness in terms of who they can kind of promote in line with us as well. I mean, we've touched on events, but I can go back to that later. And then the website, which you guys obviously help us with, I think it's very clear for that to tell a story. It's very important for that to be clear and user friendly, so that people can actually know what you're about. But then balancing all these short term things with kind of longer term in establishing trust, making sure that your customers feel that they're valued, so that you're asking for their feedback, and kind of building a foundation for longer term engagement with them as well, so that you can scale the business kind of accordingly as well and look at future opportunities, even if let's say it's too early for us to work in a certain market, but we can kind of just dip our toe in there so we can just be ready for when it does, and adapting as things change as well, as they definitely do.
Obviously, you touched on kind of partnerships there, and in terms of kind of that relationship building element. Again, is Mindway quite conference led in terms of its brand building approach, and how do you choose wisely? Which ones you're going to attend, which ones you're going to kind of market really well, and where does that kind of fall in the whole strategy?
That is a very good question. Because, like I said, there's so many events, and we're always open to new opportunities. So there's always new events popping up all the time. But we do try and plan out as much as possible in advance which events that we're going to attend. And I think it's important as well that we show, that we've quite a diverse team as well, with different skill sets. So we all have something different to bring when we're attending events, whether it's speaking or networking or whatever it is. So we kind of pick them based on that as well. But I think it's mostly just down to kind of regulation in certain sectors or certain markets. And I suppose the dedication to player protection as well for certain events is really important to us. So and that can change depending on what's happening in a market. So we just try and keep as close an eye on it as we can and monitor it, and we have feedback meetings about how events have ran, and we're not afraid to give suggestions as well to the event organizers, as to how things can be improved or something different that might be interesting to see at a future one.
I think you're right. I think that's often something that kind of gets unsaid as well. See, in terms of conference attendance, that it actually is a really, really good educational tool, and it does, it does allow us as marketers and and just people within that industry the opportunity to actually skill up and make sure that we do have the finger in the pulse, and that we know, well, we know what's happening within our sector. And I
Yeah.
think that probably iGaming do that better than a lot of other industries. Definitely that I've been kind of involved in.
Yeah, I'd agree with you as well. I think, like I said, even though there are a lot of events, I think they all bring something different. And I think, yeah, the best way to learn is by engaging with people and kind of finding out what's challenging or what's an exciting opportunity for them as well. So, I mean, even if you're not speaking at an event, if you're just sitting in, you can definitely learn a lot, and particularly learn a lot from the questions that people ask. I think that's definitely quite telling.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of anything that you might have kind of caught on at events, and when it comes to the future of iGaming and the future of marketing within iGaming, is there any particular trends that you think we should be on the lookout for, or that operators, affiliates, or even B2B businesses like yourself should be paying particular attention to?
Yeah, from ones that I've attended or kind of heard of recently, a lot of people have been talking about personalisation, and how maybe they can use AI to do that, and that can be in multiple areas. So if they're kind of the UX for their product, or marketing to their player base, and how they could do that in a personalized, meaningful way, but also non-intrusive as well. I think definitely going to see more of that. I know I'm going to sound biased by saying this, but definitely there's been an increase in the interest in RG in general. So the AGA recently published a stat that they said that responsible gambling investments are up 471 million annually. So that's up 72% from 2017. So, that says it in itself. That's just for the US. I've definitely seen that across the board as well. So I think more companies are definitely putting a lot more resource into that. I think with the personalization and AI as well, I think there's going to be more of a focus on data privacy as well, as we've seen from the white paper with talks around affordability and how that affects kind of the player and what they want as well, and how you can kind of get that balance right of making a meaningful interaction that's based on a number of different factors and not just one thing. But then how do you communicate that with the player effectively? So yeah, I think they're probably some of the top things that I'd see coming up.
Definitely, I think they've just touching on the responsible gambling element of it. Like you've kind of seen even agency side, like clients that are there just attaching a much larger budget to that, even from a marketing perspective. Never mind, but the tech and everything else that they have as part of their product. And we've definitely seen that there is such a strong focus, much more than there was before, in terms of saying, we want to get this marketing message right. We don't want to be known as this brand that's just, out there without these protective elements in
Yeah.
place, which I think can only be positive for the industry as a whole.
Yeah, like I said, going back to the industry perception, I think the more that we can do in this space and kind of bridge the gap, the better. There's other industries that have come under fire in the past, and they seem to have done it quite well. So I think there's still a lot we can learn, and there's new markets regulating all the time, and some of them now off the bat are coming in with RG regulations, which is great. And we don't want to go the other way where it's too strict, where you push people to the black market. So I think having stakeholders across the board talk about this is really important. You don't want just operators talking to operators. You have to see the full picture and get the regulators, get even voices of the general public involved as well. So it's more kind of well-rounded and more sustainable, I think, for everyone.
100%. So Niamh, I've asked everybody this question that's appeared on Footprints in the Market. So what I would like to know from you is the best piece of advice that you could give anybody that is emerging into the iGaming industry. So if there was something that you wish you knew before you started that you've learned along the way.
Okay, I'm gonna have to think about this. This is I've never been asked this one before, but I remember what I was told when I first joined, which sounded quite ominous, was once you join the industry, you're never going to leave.
Oh, that's dangerous. That's
Yeah. But I would say just enjoy it and just learn as much as you can, because people move around a lot. I think the relationships are really important. And yeah, the more kind of that you can learn from different areas that you might not think would be useful to your role at the moment might come in handy down the line. So yeah, that would be definitely what I'd advise.
No, you're right. I think it's definitely a testament to the industry overall, because anytime you do see somebody like on LinkedIn, changing their position, you first of all go, and you go, it's okay, they're just moving to this company that's still like that.
Exactly. Yeah, you'll see them on the event circuit somewhere, and
Exactly.
yeah, and like what I was just saying, I think there's a lot of shared learnings then that you can kind of share with each other. I mean, our team, we all have different backgrounds. So, for example, our tech team, their backgrounds in cognitive science, computer science, and machine learning, and that kind of thing. And then on our biz dev team, there's we've people with backgrounds like in RG and compliance, mine in content and event. And I think it's just really good when you can come together and kind of swap learnings like that. And that's one of the things I really like about the industry, is that there's always something new happening, and there's a lot to learn.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Niamh, for coming on our webinar. I really, really appreciate it and giving up your time to be here to speak to us
Oh, of
today.
course. Yeah, thank you so much.
I definitely think we've got enough takeaways and sound bites for people.
I hope so. If not, ring me again and I'll try give you give you a few more.
Thank you so much. And yeah, you'll definitely see me in the event circuit.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.